This is Educated Artistry. All right, guys, welcome to this week's episode of Educated Artistry. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by two guests, Olivia and Anne, the owners of Lash Apothecary. And they are both full-time lash artists since 2018 who want to provide clean, quality products to the lash world. And today, we're going to be diving into probably the most controversial topic of the year surrounding the LED UV light systems that you guys are probably seeing all around on Instagram and TikTok. We're going to be talking about the system itself and the safety for the client and the artist. And we're also going to dive into the safety of lash liquids and the science behind the chemicals we are using on our clients every day. And I do want to add too, if you guys are listening, we are going to have a couple of visuals that are going to go along with this episode. So if you want to see those, especially when we're breaking down the UV light and the wavelengths, then you'll definitely want to head over to YouTube to see those. But welcome to the podcast, Olivia and Anne. I'm so excited to have you guys here.
Yeah, we're excited
We're
too.
super excited.
Thank you.
Yes.
Of course. We met at the Lash conference and our booths were on the same row. So it was really cool. I was so happy that you guys came up and said hi. And that's kind of how this interview got set up because you guys were talking about it. I was like, and I could just see your passion for not only the chemical side of things and what you guys were trying to bring to the industry. And I'm excited to dive into everything with you today.
Yeah,
we're excited too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we do. We talk about this all the time. We are just,
This is like our whole life.
Yeah.
I think listeners are really going to hear the passion and how educated you guys have been throughout with having something that's very controversial. I posted a TikTok video knowing that we were doing this interview of asking people what are your questions, what are your concerns, and it was controversial. But there was a couple girls too, they're like, I've been using it for months and that have actually used your Opal system, and they're like, I love it, I'm faster, whatever it is. So it's just funny because it is so on opposite sides of the spectrum. I feel like there's nobody in the middle. So I'm excited to clear up some questions too.
I agree. There's really nobody in the middle, really.
No, there's no middle ground.
Everybody's 100% on board, or they're like, oh my God, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's, we're here to, we just feel education is the key to everything. Everything, our liquids, the light, everything that we have as a company. We strive to be super transparent. That's super key. We want to educate everyone. We were educated with starting our company. And so it was, and the more that we found out, the more we knew, the more we're like, oh my God, everybody needs to know this. Why doesn't everybody know this? Because these are things that we didn't know as we were starting out on our last journey. So, and if I would have understood all the chemicals and how they work and what they do and how they affect me, oh my gosh, it would have been a game changer right out the gate. So anyway,
definitely.
super.
No, I agree because I do feel like I've been doing lashes since 2015, and I feel like, back then there was no education on what was in your adhesive. I think I may have known the word cyanoacrylate, but not really what that meant. So, yeah, I'm excited. So I am so curious though, how you guys started your business together. Who became a lash artist first, or did you guys jump in together? How did that all unfold?
My mom, she started doing lashes first.
Mm-hmm.
She took a lash class. She was doing hair. Mm-hmm. One of her clients was like, hey, you should come take my lash class. And I never really wanted to do lashes. It wasn't anything that I felt would be interesting, I guess. And so I just had no desire. And I've been in the beauty industry since 2006. And I had done everything. Waxing, facials, hair, anything you can think of. I tried nails for a minute. Definitely not my thing. But once my mom started doing lashes and I saw her doing it, I was like,
she's like, hey,
I think I might want to do that. Yeah. And so she actually tried to teach me, and it
that was a big fail.
It didn't go well. Mothers and daughters should not.
No.
didn't teach each other how to do lashes. There was lots of crying, lots of yelling. So I ended up taking the same class that she did. And so, yeah, now here we are. It was probably about maybe 6 months after she had started doing lashes, I took my class.
Yeah, I picked up on it. It's very frustrating. Lash, I mean, as you probably know, it's very frustrating. It's something you just need to stick with because it's very, very frustrating. And although I did take a class that cost a bit of money, and it was quite an investment, I didn't really learn that much, to be quite honest. A lot of the things that I learned on my own later. Like I probably like 75% of it I learned on my own. So that was something that I don't know. It was a little disheartening, I guess. And at the point that we are at right now in our lash journey and our business, it's something that we want to change. So, and there were a lot of things that I did not learn about. I didn't learn anything about the chemicals. I didn't learn, and just like you were saying, the cyanoacrylate word, it's like we just kind of, that's the only thing I kind of knew about glue. It's just whoever had the cutest packaging and whoever had this, and my friend uses this and use this, I'm like, okay, and not even realizing what I was breathing in its liquid state, what my client was breathing in. I just knew hand speed, get it over there quick. That was about it. That was my lash glue education, I guess.
Mine too. Yeah. Everything really was self-taught. And then we didn't find any of this chemical stuff out until we partnered with a chemist.
Yeah.
And so now that we know these things, we just feel that it is so important for the entire lash industry to know the science behind the actual chemicals, what they do, how you need to protect yourself against them, for your health and for the longevity of your career, and then to also keep your clients safe and healthy too. And we believe that shouldn't be something that you pay for. That should be a free class.
It should just be included.
Yeah.
And had I known all this, I mean, I will say, like as you're lashing, and in the early days, and even up until we started working with our own chemist and stuff, you were lashing all day, your throat starts to get sore, your eyes are watering, your nose is running,
your
and
chest will hurt.
Your chest will hurt, and I'm thinking, this can't be good, but you just keep doing it, but you don't really understand exactly why it's happening, but you just like, well, I love lashing, I love doing this, I love creating this art, so I'm just going to keep doing it, and I just deal with whatever happens. So and that's terrifying. So
it's extremely terrifying. And I think it's amazing that you guys want to give this information for free. And I think there's so many things I think in our lash education world where that should be like in a foundational course that isn't, which chemicals and understanding ingredients should definitely be a good one, or it should be part of it, where it shouldn't even be like a bonus class. I don't feel like you should get that in your main training. Like that should be part of your foundational skills.
And we're totally willing to give any of that information out for free because you need to know. We want to spread the word safety wise. So our journey with trying to find something that, it was always the holy grail, trying to find something that's safer for the artist, safer for the client, what's for the most sensitive. Let's just keep reformulating glues and on our chemist, she's fantastic, by the way, would send us a sample of what we were kind of looking for. We test it out and send it back either yay or nay, or can we change this, can we tweak this, can we do that. But we're always looking for the most sensitive, healthiest of the glue as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
But in that journey of trying to find these things, we keep learning more and more about what goes into all of these glues and what are the ingredients that make it do its thing, and what are the additives and how many ingredients. But it was fascinating. The more you know, the more we wanted to know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you guys have a chemist that you're like are in contact with. You can ask questions. So I definitely want to get into that as we get into like the liquids and the adhesive. But let's start with you guys have a UV light called the Opal system. And I'm sure a lot of people are seeing now like there's a bunch of different variety now on the market that's, coming to the lash industry. But yours is called the Opal system. So I just want listeners to know like if I'm referring to that or asking about that, that's we're talking about your system directly, not just broadly. But I want to start with just talking about what is UV light and if we can talk about the difference between UV, LED, kind of just to get a base foundation so we kind of understand what these mean and to help artists if they are searching for this, how to tell the difference between the two as well.
So when you're seeing a system that says that it's an LED UV or an LED or a UV, like sometimes you'll see it just say LED, sometimes you'll say it just say UV, sometimes it will say both. And I think that the reason why a lot of people are leaving the UV part out of it is because that's a buzzword.
Totally.
So when anybody hears UV, they instantly freak out and think skin cancer, skin damage, I'm gonna die.
Right.
Like everybody freaks out about that. Just because that's what we've been taught since seriously we are born. We're taught UV is bad.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true. There's so many factors that go into UV itself. So to explain why it's called an LED UV system. So LED refers to the lights themselves. So LED stands for light emitting diode. So it's referring to the type of bulb that it is. And actually LEDs are really, really, really common now.
Mm-hmm.
You can not find a light that is not an LED.
Yeah, unless you get it at some at a hardware store that's back in that's out its inventory for like the last 10, 20 years.
So household lights are LEDs.
This ring light that we're
the ring light, all your ring lights, your overhead lights, things like that, those are LEDs. So basically that just refers to the bulb itself. So UV does not ever refer to a bulb. It's not ever going to refer to a bulb. It never has. Like that's just not what UV is. And I think that people get confused because of tanning beds. I would assume that that's kind of where the confusion is happening. So UV refers to a type of wavelength scale. So on the wavelength scale, it'll show you the different colors, and then it will have a little number on the bottom, and those are nanometers. So a nanometer is what a wavelength unit of measure is. So you'll see it say NM, and so that's basically just referring to the wavelength of the light itself, of the visible light. So that's why something can be an LED bulb within the UV spectrum.
Yes.
So they can be the same. Just like when you go get a facial and you get infrared or red treatment or blue light treatment, those are also LED. They're just in a different wavelength.
So that's where like the purpley violet color comes in because it's in that section with the different wavelengths compared to if you're looking at the chart, you see the red. So it's still LED. They're the same light. It's just they're in different wavelengths. That's what's creating the visible color.
Right.
Okay. Exactly.
Cool. Yeah. And then our light and a cell phone and what else is in that? There's a little, I always call it the little Goldilocks zone in the middle of that on that chart.
Yeah, on the wavelength.
And that's
scale.
That's the safety zone where anything that is in that area is the safe zone.
Yeah, there's a certain nanometer from this nanometer to this nanometer that is, I guess, I don't want to say safe because all visible light is safe.
It's a very
it's when it's an invisible light,
so like an X-ray or
UVB rays
or sterilization, things like that. Those are very, very, very dangerous, and that's on that other side.
So those are wavelengths, but they're invisible light. Whereas this is the visible light scale, and anything on the visible light scale is fine within. Like I said, there's tons of other things that go along with it. You've got power, you've got exposure, you've got the irradiance. Like it's this whole equation that happens to tell you if it is going to be safe
or not.
Or not.
And ours So yeah, just say what ours is.
So the Opal light on the UV scale, it sits at 395 to 400 nm, and with it being in that section, it can't penetrate through your tissue. It's at the UVA section.
Okay.
Not only is it within that safe section, it also sits at 5 watts at 1.2 amps. So the watts
that is the bulb.
Is
the LED bulb.
Yeah, like, you know how like when you go shopping for a light bulb for your house and you've got like 60 watts, 80 watts,
120,
120, like this is 5. So it's super low.
It's very, very low.
Yeah.
Okay. And the amps are at 1.2,
which is low.
And it's controlled, and that's what makes it all together with the on the UV scale there, plus the wattage of the LED light, plus the amps that are going through, all that combined together is what's making it super safe. And I guess you can talk about the study that was done on the light too. I mean, that's how we know our light is safe.
Yeah.
So and we're just operating on that.
So yeah, that's the basics behind the LED UV, how it's different, but how they can be the same thing
together.
Yeah.
The UV is not the bulb is the LED. So yeah.
Right. So have you noticed, like, with other companies come out with these? Because I was looking at your guys' website and I saw that you had like the numbers and everything of like the wattage and everything on there. So are there other brands out there where they're higher wattages or higher the on that scale too, that people should they be looking for that kind of stuff? You know what I mean?
Yes.
100%.
I would say the main things that you need to be keeping an eye out for when you're searching for a UV system is going to be, can the company answer your questions confidently? Do they know the science behind their light? Do they know what certifications they have? Do they know the testing that was done on it? And then, do they know where it was made? Is it made in a reputable manufacturing lab, or is it made God knows where, and you bought it off of an Instagram message for $15?
Right. I mean, that's scary. Unless they can answer all of these questions, be super duper transparent. I mean, and we invite all of that. I mean, so, and just literally do your research.
I would just make sure that they can answer the questions confidently, and that it is within that 395 to 400 nm
on the wavelength.
Super low power. You do not want it to be high power, because when it's higher, that's when you're going to have issues with like long-term damage and things like that. So that's why, like, as we're seeing all of these lights kind of come onto the market,
which is cool, but it's also
kind of makes me nervous because I know what went on behind the scenes to get ours. And I can't imagine that these other places have done that same thing. I mean, I don't know.
We hope so.
I hope so.
But you as an artist or as a consumer, please just like get all of the information you can. Call them, email them, do whatever you need to do to get all the information. And if they can't provide that for you,
it's probably not a good
idea. And also we hand test everything that comes in before we send it out to anybody. Make sure everything is working properly and everything. So we don't just like,
and I've actually had a lot of people ask, so do you get your light for $15 like all these other people? And I'm like, I mean, first of all, I think it's tacky to talk about someone's profit margins.
But
so I'm not going to talk about that. But I wish that we paid $15 for a light.
And that's okay, because we've had So just for an example, I've had people contact me and say, "Hey, so you guys are crazy for getting your liquids made in the United States. You're crazy for doing that. It's cost so much money to do that." And you should go and get your liquids made here because it's so cheap. I only pay this much, however many cents per bottle. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's great for you, but we're not, no. I would rather know what's in everything, and I would rather know, and we can guarantee the quality and everything. So I would just, and we'll tell you everything that's in everything. So
Yeah, I think one of the most common controversies that come through too that I've heard is that, the light, being exposed to the light for a long period of time on somebody's eye can, be damaging. So, or can pose a risk, I guess. So we do know that you said with the area that your light falls in, it isn't strong enough to penetrate through the skin, right? So I think that's obviously a big part of people's concern is that it's not actually that the opal system isn't penetrating through the skin. But when it comes to like studies and stuff with the light, what type of studies have been done with long-term, are there any long-term effects? Like what type of studies have been done there?
So that's actually a good question, and I don't know if a lot of people have heard me talk about this. I really only talk about it when someone has asked. But this type of light that the opal system was actually a part of a study that started 14 years ago in America and 15 years ago in Europe. And that was to determine if there were any long-term effects on a human.
Like specifically being close to their eye or them just being exposed to it? Okay.
Being exposed to it and looking at it and the whole thing. And there are no long-term effects. It is not strong enough. It's just not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and in fact, from that study, they got an equation. Basically, it was an independent lab that did it. So you have to, if you wanted to read the study, you would have to pay the lab to get the study. And the reason why it's so important that it was an independent lab that did it, anybody that is going to benefit from the sale or manufacturing of a light like this can't pay the lab to say what they want them to say.
Because that would be a bias.
Because then it's no longer unbiased and the data is not what the data is, right? So anyway, within that study, they came up with this equation to basically determine what would be the equivalent of being outside as opposed to being under that light. And this one's going to blow your mind. Okay. So if you were to stand outside for 60 seconds in the real sun and then come inside, you wanted to get that same UV exposure that you got from being outside for 60 seconds, you would need to remain under the opal light without moving and without turning it off for 60 hours.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
It was like mind blowing.
And the thing is, and that's why I say, like, I think people automatically freak out and think, holy shit, no way am I going to have a light next to my client's eyes. I'm not going to be looking at that light. Absolutely not. And I get it. I do too. Because we thought
I had
the same
tons of questions.
things.
Yeah, we didn't just be like, we weren't like, hey, so let's do this light thing. Bam. We were like, okay, and I'm a question asker. She's a question asker. I'm being her mom, I don't know. I just ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had a lot of questions before we even delved into this and thought, okay, I'm okay with this. We got the study. We researched, we asked questions, we found out a lot of, I learned more about wavelengths and watts and amps than I ever did in school, ever.
It made me think of school.
We're basically electricians now.
Basically.
I could basically wire your house now. Just kidding.
No, it's so funny because when I was like reading the graphics and stuff you sent me, I was like, oh my God, I kind of feel like I remember touching on this a little bit in like aesthetic school about UV light, UVA, UVB, and I was like,
and you're like,
yeah, because it doesn't, but now it does, and I do think too. with artists, and if they're wanting to bring and use something like this into their business, which we'll get into the benefits of what you guys have found, but it's super important to be able to understand this so you can explain it to your client when they have questions, being like, but I heard on TikTok that someone said I'm going to get eye cancer, you know, or whatever it is. So I do want to ask though, because I saw that you guys do have like safety glasses for the artist. So what does that mean? We've talked about the client, but what about for the artist being exposed to that type of light? And like, if it's safe, like, why do we need safety glasses?
Right. Okay. So I'll take that one. Okay. So we call them safety glasses, but they're really just like a blue light glass. So if you have blue light glasses when you're looking at your screen, just for eye strain, you know. So, and I mean, they're technically safety glasses, so we call them that. But if you have a pair of blue light glasses that you use for, you know, if you're looking at your computer or your phone screen or anything, that's all it really is. If you don't get eye strain from that, really no reason to use them. I don't use them. She and I have been using this light continuously for the last 7 months. And we actually we tested it out for a couple months before we released it all, and we wanted to make sure everything was on point. Everything was, we had all the information, we could answer questions, you know, confidently. So, but yeah, the safety glasses, it's totally optional. I don't use them.
I don't either.
And I lash like 8 hours a day, and my eyes it's the same kind of tired I would get just from lashing normally, you know. And I wear magnifiers, so
yeah. But if you're somebody who
is sensitive to that,
is sensitive to blue light, like from being on the computer, being on your phone, watching TV, things like that, because those are all blue light, which means that they're also UV. Fun
fact. Your phone is the same.
Yes,
it's an LED. UV.
Yeah. So UV, if you're somebody who is more sensitive to blue light, you will probably notice that you're going to want to wear the blue light glasses. But we provide them in there for just in case, like you get going and you're like, man, this is really making my eyes tired. Then you can pop those on. So that's why they're in there. It's more just if you want them, that way they're there.
Yeah. We just wanted to over prepare you, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, so totally not required. So
yeah.
But yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So what are some of the benefits of using this UV light that you guys have found when it comes to like taking clients and your day-to-day?
I would say, okay, so I don't know, maybe this kind of is like, I love it because I control my cure time on this. I can lash cleaner. I'm not breathing in fumes. My client's not breathing in fumes. I mean, a little bit, because until it's totally cured and made inert with the light, you know, and the cyanoacrylate in the liquids is pretty low. So I don't notice, I'm not getting the sore throat, the runny nose, the itchy eyes, anything like that. My clients, they don't have the tearing as I'm lashing them. They're way more comfortable. They prefer it. So yeah. Anyway,
and so when the client has their eyes closed, can they see a color? Can they even tell that there's like anything there?
So she and I were talking about it, and I asked my clients too. You know, some of them can, some of them can't. All they really feel is like maybe a little warmth, but that is from the bulb itself, kind of. But it's not. It's not anything alarming or anything. And
the people who can see the light, it just looks white.
Yeah, it's just like you notice, like if your eyes are closed and someone turned on and off a light.
Well, if you have your overhead light too.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's way less, like my Cosmoglow that I use is way, way, way brighter than that, than my curing light. So yeah. And it's just, I love, it's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, they can't
see it.
No, they can't see it. Some notice a change. I don't see it at all.
Yeah.
But she can.
I can.
Okay. And I notice a little bit of warmth, and and we get this question a lot, is why is it getting warm? Yeah. But any light
will be,
because it's energy.
It's emitting a little bit
Yeah.
of energy. So
yeah.
My clients love it. They're like, it's very comforting, and they just go right to sleep.
Dude, it puts me right to sleep within seconds. I'm snoring.
So yeah, but yeah.
No, that's cool too, how you're saying like that you can control your cure time. And I can see how that would make sense with fumes, especially because even if you're using an adhesive that's got like that, 1 to 2 second cure time and stuff, that you need to either nano mist them after the service or whatever to completely cure it. So with this light, it's curing it once you place the extension onto the natural lash, emit the light, it's cured.
Yep.
All the way through.
Right.
Yeah, with the traditional adhesive, you would have it would be dry, but it's not fully cured for another couple days.
Through the core.
You can speed that up with a bonder or a nano mister or something like that, because it will take on the outside elements of it's a traditional adhesive we're talking about, take on the outside elements to cure. And it takes a couple days for that to cure. With the light, it reads, we have a photo initiator in our adhesive, that the wavelength of the light reads the photo initiator and tells it to do its thing, and it just immediately goes boom. So and then it's made inert. It's not releasing any kind of formaldehydes or any fumes at all. It's just done. So
well, and the difference between the way that an LED UV cured and a traditional adhesive are going to cure, a traditional adhesive is going to cure from the outside in,
kind of like an egg,
kind of like if you're hard boiling an egg, right? The yolk is the last part that's going to get cooked, right? But with a UV LED, it goes from the inside to the out, so the entire thing is done. You're not waiting for that middle part that is still releasing fumes for days on end.
And that's why your clients will notice, like, if you say, I will always tell them, go home and wash them. You can wash them tonight, and they have that. They say, oh, I washed them and it was super stingy. It was because the glue is not totally cured all the way inside yet. And it's still, when it hits with the water or whatever, it's still doing the thing and releasing. And it's like, I don't know what happened, and before we understood about adhesives and things like that, we didn't know either. I'm thinking, well, you just must have dirty lashes. That doesn't make any sense. But once we understood chemically on a level like that, it made total sense. It's like, oh, well, it's because it's not all the way cured on the inside yet, and it's still doing its thing. And when you hit it with the water or steam or whatever, it's super sensitive, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stingy. But you don't have that.
I feel like a lot of people will say that too. Like, they're like, when I take a shower, like, I'm like, my eyes are burning and stuff. If it's a couple days after you get your lashes done. So I do know there's a different adhesive. There's a special adhesive when you're using a UV light, and especially with your Opal system. So why do you need it? Like, what's the difference? Because the main ingredient's still cyanoacrylate, right? So what is the difference between traditional and this UV light adhesive that you would use?
So traditional adhesives are typically going to have 3 ingredients. So all of our traditional adhesives, they all have 3 ingredients in them. Opal is going to have 4. So that 4th ingredient is called a photo initiator. And our photo initiator is actually pretty cool because it's a patented formula, so no one else can use it. And it basically, that photo initiator is going to recognize those specific wavelengths. And then it tells all of the ingredients within the glue, all of the cyanoacrylate and everything, that, okay, it's time to cure.
And then boom.
And then it all cures.
It's so,
it's
so
cool.
It is so cool.
It's so crazy to think of like ingredients. Like, I just literally imagined them like talking to each other, like, hey man, it's your turn now. Like that's like what I just imagined in my head. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So okay. Right? So with that extra ingredient, is there a risk of somebody being allergic to that ingredient?
No. It is such a small percentage in there that I would be shocked.
I would be shocked if they were. I would be shocked.
Yeah. It's I can't remember the percentage exactly from the SDS sheet, but I want to say it's like 1% or something like that.
Yeah.
maybe it's 5%. Something, it's very, very low.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say so. It's not one of those commonly, I guess, I don't from the SDS sheet, but I want to say it's like 1% or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 5%. Something, it's very, very low.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say so. It's not one of those commonly, I guess, I don't think that it's a common allergen.
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Mm-mm. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was reading once again on your website, because of course I tried to do lots of research for this episode. That you guys say too, like with using this system and that adhesive, that your humidity and your temperature are no longer a factor, which I know for a lot of lash artists are always like, I'm trying to find the best adhesive for my humidity and my temperature. So why is that no longer a factor with this type of adhesive and using the Opal system?
Right.
Okay.
So with our adhesive, I'm not sure about everybody else's because our photo initiator is patented.
Mhm.
Our photo initiator makes it so that we can have less cyanoacrylate in our adhesive.
Okay.
So we have a fourth of the cyanoacrylate than a traditional adhesive would have.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just not, there's not as much in there to cause any type of
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Like, so that's interesting, because I feel like one of the other things I've heard too is that like using this type of light and system can limit sensitivities for clients. And you sent me some pictures too of people that you used traditional adhesive on where their eyes were swollen, and it looks like an allergic reaction, because the difference between a true allergic reaction and a sensitivity, right? Because I think that yeah. So for me, I feel like a sensitivity is more of like you get the eye redness because maybe the fumes, the watery eyes, that kind of stuff. And then the true allergic reaction is where within 24 hours, you're going to have those swollen eyelids, mainly on the top, and maybe swelling around too, depending on how severe it is. But that usually it's going to happen within that first day.
Yeah.
Right.
And on both eyes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
So your photo that you sent too, like you could see, and we'll attach them on this portion of the video where you can see that they were both like really swollen, where it looked more to me like an allergic reaction, like a true allergic reaction. So that would make sense then. Do you feel like it, because obviously cyanoacrylate is still a part of it. So if you're allergic to cyanoacrylate, you're still going to be allergic to cyanoacrylate.
Correct.
But is it because of the amount that is inside of the adhesive that's making it to where they're not as sensitive
Yes.
and having those same reactions?
So I will tell you, there are some clients who we always recommend that you do a patch test. If you have somebody who has had issues in the past with a traditional adhesive, do not just full send and do a set on them.
with the lights.
Yeah.
No.
Definitely do a patch test. We recommend that you do at least 20 extensions
per eye
on
just one eye.
Just one eye, so
one
you
eye.
can see the difference, just to make sure. So for example, my baby sister is so allergic to acrylates that she can't even have nails.
Mine too.
And she still did swell up.
She did.
It took her a little longer than it normally would with a traditional adhesive, but she did still swell. So we didn't do a full set. Now my sister-in-law is one of those pictures. And we had tried, she was my other guinea pig. We tried everything on her too. I mean, I tried things that you're not even supposed to be trying, like putting steroid cream and things like that. And anyway, nothing worked. And so then when we got Opal, I texted her and I said, hey, let's just try it and let's see. So we did a patch test, and I did like a heavy patch test on her. And she was fine. And so then we actually did her full set on an Instagram live, and just had people like ask questions and stuff. And then had her send me a picture the next day and a couple days later and stuff. And you can even see in the top photo, her nose is even swollen. Like her whole face got swollen. So I'm not sure if she necessarily had an allergy, and I don't know if we as lash artists can really even tell. Right. So that's why we always say just do a patch test. I mean, typically if someone swells up, they're probably allergic, and just don't touch them.
Yeah, and I
Right.
would just say, I know we all have clients who are like, please just do. I'm going to take some Benadryl. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm just like, I just feel like you shouldn't. I as an artist, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to keep trying on somebody because that's going to come back onto me. That's going to be, you're doing something. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
It ends up being like
it's a liability. It really is. And I would rather just say, hey, I am really, really sorry. I can't. I wish I could, but I'm not your artist. I'm sorry, And so, and I mean, I caution people not to just keep trying with people. If you've tried whatever, I mean, when you start going into I'm going to take Benadryl and I'm going to put this on my eye and I'm going to do this. That's time to give it up. Time to give it up. It's a no-go for me. We'll just find some great strips for you. But
exactly.
But yes, but the Opal has been kind of a, some of the clients who have had sensitivities in the past, like Jody, she's kind of severe. Like, hey, you can invite them back and say, hey, let's try a patch test on you and see how this works. It may not, it may, but if it does, that's fantastic. Cause I know, everybody wants lashes.
Yeah. And I've had clients too that, like those ones that they just water like the whole time, no matter what you do. And you ask them, you're like, is the tape feel okay?
Like, is everything, did I get it on point? Like,
and they just water and it's the fumes. So for those people, definitely Opal is perfect.
Yeah.
For that.
It really is. One of my clients, she, every time that even though, I keep checking, I'm like, dude, my taping up is on point. You are totally closed. Everything is, great. And she'd still open up her eyes and she'd have that redness. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, so I'm going to do, she's so open to everything. I'm going to use the light system on you and we're going to try this. And she opened her eyes and they were nothing. And she's like, oh my gosh, she goes, this is the first time I've opened my eyes and I don't look like I am stoned. And I'm like, I know, isn't it amazing? So she's, it was fantastic. Yeah. She's like, yay.
Yeah.
But
I would definitely err on the side of caution.
I would too.
And obviously, it still does have cyanoacrylate in it. There is no way, because trust me, we have tried, and this is the closest to an actual sensitive adhesive that we have ever gotten.
Right. And she had been trying to get us to do this for a while because she's like, we can't formulate too much more to try and get where you need to be. So
she's been trying to get us to do a light system, and our other chemists too. They have been trying to get us to do a light system for 3 years, and we finally said yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
We just were like, I don't know, but we did never say anything about it. And so that's why I think that all of these artists and all these salons and all these other companies are saying, no, there's not enough testing. There's not enough that's been done. There's not, but there has. It's just been in the background.
Yes. Well, and she's the one who recommended this particular light too. So yeah, we totally trust her.
Yeah.
And we have all the paperwork to back it up. So which makes us feel good.
No, I think
we want to make money, yes. But do we but we want to put out a quality product that's as safe as possible. And that's what we're always looking for. So,
Yeah.
We can have both.
Yeah,
I feel like we can have both.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
No, and I think it's cool too that you guys aren't just like, oh yeah, and all of your clients, they'll, they're allergic, they're cured, because I think that isn't responsible to say that. And I've seen where there's been other, like, I just like ads and stuff popping up now lately, like they're everywhere being like, if you're allergic, try this, So I think that's really good to clear the air and it makes sense. Like to me thinking like if there's fumes, and some people are more sensitive, and you're able to cure that adhesive right away. You're getting rid of those fumes, so maybe they're going to have the little bit less watering, a little bit less redness, which is great for the client as well. I also want to ask too, how did you get involved with your own chemist and being able to manufacture in the United States? Because as we mentioned before, a lot of people are like, why do that? You can buy adhesive in China for like 50 cents a bottle and sell it for $60. Like, so like, how did you guys get connected? And then why was that something important to you for your business?
So we had been lash artists for a while. I was a brand ambassador for a company for quite a few years. And I was super involved in that company. And then it just kind of felt like it was time to take the next step, right? Whether that be education, whether it be products. And I was kind of leaning more toward product. And I was telling my mom and my husband, I was like, I think that we should do a product line. Like, I think that's what we should do. And so we started looking, and we wanted it to be made in the US just because we felt like that was going to be more regulated, because it is much more regulated. And that made us feel more comfortable. So we couldn't find anywhere in the US. We thought we did, and it ended up not being. It was just someone that was white labeling. So that was really discouraging. Yeah. And so
we learned a lot.
Yes. So then we went on a hunt for a manufacturer, and everywhere that we found, and I don't know if this is true for all of them, but these are just our experience that we had. Basically, they just wanted you to pick an adhesive out of a catalog, essentially. They tell you like what they can make.
These are the dry times.
Yeah.
This is
the humidity, the temperature, all that stuff. Like you pick the specs of what they have, and then you pick your bottle and your cap color, and then you put your label on it. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because then I'm just selling the same stuff that everybody else is selling.
Yeah. And it's who has the cutest packaging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a contest to who has the best marketing. And
our eyes were opened pretty wide right then.
Yeah. And then I we
thought, wait.
And then I got thinking about it, and I was like, okay, but how do I know that this stuff is safe? How do I know that you are actually putting in there what you're saying is in there? How do I know that? Because how cheap that is makes me nervous.
Yeah.
And they
can you give an example of like how much, like even from like that type of catalog, like what was the pricing?
So it's about like, I would say pennies.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff scares me too, especially when it's like chemicals, and there's certain things where I'm like, these aren't things that you want to like cheap out on, and like, I don't know.
No,
like
you just don't.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Because they can say that it's one thing and put in something else, because who's regulating this? Right. What government agency is regulating that?
This, and how do we know?
Because they're in another country. There's no government agency that gives a shit what is in your lash adhesive. They don't care.
Right.
For the most part, probably.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure there's some manufacturers that do care.
Because we can't say that.
But the ones that we came across, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like 2 cents? No way.
We were very discouraged. And so then you were like, we don't want to do it. We'll figure something out. I don't want to do this. This is too much. This is not the trajectory that we want it to go.
Mm-mm. So I 100% threw a fit, because
you did 100%.
That's what I do. I was pouting, and so my husband actually has a family member that works for a chemicals company, and he said, I'm just gonna text my cousin.
You're like,
and I was like, whatever, I don't care what you do whatever you want, I don't give a shit anymore. I was throwing a fit,
like, I'm done.
And so then anyway, after having a conversation with his cousin, he comes in and he's like, I think I found us a lab in the US. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. I'm like, to call my mom, because I don't care.
I'm like, oh my God, let's do it.
So it just, we found that, and then we just kind of, they just started making They
And
made us our first glue.
We did, and then we started to become super educated on all of the ingredients and what makes what, and what makes it a fast glue, what makes it all this different stuff. What's the oil resistant? What's the and the retention ratings. That was a big one.
Yeah, finding out where the retention ratings come from on adhesives and
the
how
humidity,
how they calculate all that is really cool. So it was that was something that was really important to us, because I thought, okay, I don't want to be spending basically just pennies to turn around and sell God knows what.
Yeah.
For $60 a bottle, in a lab that may or may not be legitimate. So the difference between our lab and other labs is our lab is actually pressurized. So there is no outside air.
During the bottling process and the making of it all.
Yeah, there's no outside air. It's completely clean, sterile, pressurized.
They're in a hazmat. They're in a who's doing the glue. It's pressurized. So you don't. Okay, so this is a cool thing. Curtis was telling us, her husband.
Curtis is my husband.
He's the more of the scientist chemist guy. But so if your environment that you're bottling your glue in is not pressurized, as you're doing stuff, you're going to get that skin on the top,
like pudding.
You know how pudding, like if it's setting for a minute, and so this is a fun fact. We learned all of this. So this is where some of the other like unknown ingredients will come in. Like if someone's not having in one of those suits, they've got maybe hair, maybe skin, they're breathing in. And then when the skin's on there, they just stir it back in there, and and then they're bottling stuff, and there's still outside air and outside elements coming into that stuff. So that's why sometimes, and that's why I figured sometimes there would be I would get glues. I would buy a glue and think, okay, this glue is
a good bottle.
A good bottle. I'm going to hurry and buy 2 more of this because I know it came from the same batch. Or else I would get a glue and it would just be, the minute I opened it up, it would be stringy and whatever. And then I'd buy another one, it'd be stringy again. I'd be like, oh my God, it was very frustrating to me. Because I didn't know what I was going to get. And so it's like, I felt like I had to have 5 bottles on hand just in case, and I didn't know if the top was going to blow off. I didn't know, it was just a kind of a crapshoot. So
yeah. So
but that is why. So these are things that we've learned. Like if it's not done in a pressurized environment like that with someone in a sterile facility,
Yeah. So that was another thing that was really important to us. Is the making of it needed to be clean as well.
Yeah.
We do definitely pay a lot more per unit
for that
for us, but we're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Because we do want to provide a consistent, clean, high quality product, and we know exactly what happens when it's being made.
Yeah.
And another cool thing about our lab is it's actually an FDA approved facility. So it is under government watch, I guess you could say. It has more regulation. So the adhesive itself is not FDA approved because that's a whole nother ball of wax. But the facility that it's made in is FDA approved. And that's for all of our liquids, our bonder, primer, removers, and our adhesives.
But that's kind of how we started on this journey and then we just, we started making our logos and making our, started trademarking things. And we've done, it's all been a total learning experience. And, we've had ups, we've had downs, we've had like, oh man, we shouldn't have done that. Or that cost us a lot of money to go that way. But then you learn from these things, and it's it's been great.
Yeah.
It's been great. There's been some tears. There's been some super exciting moments, but all in all, I mean, things are going.
There's been fits that have been thrown.
There has been fits that have been thrown. But and it's not as easy as everybody says it is. No. They're like, oh, just start a company, start a supply line, start a this. It's so easy. It's so not. It's just not. It's very stressful.
It is.
It is.
I mean, even for people who do like the white labeling route and they find a product, like,
right.
Even then you still have to market it and be good at that. Then like fulfill, so it's like, even that's not easy. And you guys are doing the extra step, of even like having your own, getting it manufactured and everything. And I think it's really cool that you can like talk to the chemist and be like, okay, we want to switch to these certain things and stuff and really make it your own. I think that's amazing. And I do hope that we can bring more like US based stuff, like source stuff to our industry too, because, yeah, I think it's important. And I didn't even know about like the pressurized stuff. Like, I feel like I'm learning so much too about like the chemicals. But I wanted to ask too, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think that the lash industry needs to know about the chemicals that we use on our clients every day? Was there anything that we missed?
So one thing that I want to be more of a common thing with lash artists is asking for the SDS sheet.
Yes.
I was thinking this the other day, like, I'm pretty sure that like when you're in esthetician school, like you're supposed to have the sheet like in your salon for everything you're using, right?
Are you?
Yeah. So some states, I think some states require that and other states don't. So the SDS sheet is mainly just for if something were to happen and you needed to go to the hospital for whatever, you need to give the doctor or the paramedic or whatever that information so that they know exactly the chemicals that were there and the percentages and things like that.
I was thinking about it because I'm like, I personally don't have them all printed out and stuff. Yeah. Like, so it's just like, oh, that's something that I think we're technically supposed to, because actually with one of the girls in my, the leases for my studio, she had a client asking her about, when people that don't do lashes and then they're like, well, I found this cyanoacrylate free or the sensitive adhesive. And like, they're like, but it doesn't, which, and then you're just like trying to tell them like, and then they're like, well, and then, so she had asked her like, oh, send me the, if you have the ingredient list and stuff and like the SDS. And so then she did. And she's like, it's the same thing that's in what we're using, so it's just kind of funny. And that's what made me think about it too. Cause I'm like, yeah, I guess technically I feel like I remember in school, it was like, you're supposed to have all of those, like,
I think
on hand.
State by state.
I think it's,
probably that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not totally sure,
right.
but the companies that are selling these things, they have to have them.
Yeah.
Yes. And you legally are required to give them to your customers within 24 hours of their formal request. So a formal request would be
an email. Yeah. Yeah. And they have to send that to you.
And you can always check. There's a website that you can cross check and see if that SDS sheet was like edited at all, because there's like a number that you can go and you can check where they all are.
And we encourage everyone to do that. Do all your research, whatever company you're purchasing from, get all that information. All of it on everything that you're being sold, and then look up those ingredients, look up everything, look up the percentages, look up all these things, and make an educated, informed purchase.
Exactly.
So it's just, I mean, for your health, for your client's health,
and
it's so important.
There's certain ingredients that
like say cyanacrylate free. That when someone says that, you think, oh, well, that must be super sensitive. Well, no, there's acrylates in there, but the other acrylates, those are the ones that are super, super dangerous.
Yeah, so they're a little stronger. So they're different acrylates, but they could still pose a risk because they are going to create a sensitization to your client quicker than it would with cyanoacrylate.
And the fumes on those things are, I can't even, there's probably off the charts.
And there are different grades of cyanoacrylate too.
There are.
There's like really high quality, which is expensive, and then there's like the lower quality. So I would check which cyanoacrylate it is
in your adhesive,
and what the percentage is, and then what the other. There should only be like 3 or 4 ingredients.
Right.
Lash adhesive is not
super.
It's not complicated, but I think that as an industry, we need to refer to them more as a chemical and not an ingredient. Because when you call it an ingredient, it makes it sound very like innocuous.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, very like, it's like pretty benign. Like, oh, it's just like making a cake.
Yeah. Just some flour, some sugar, you know, we definitely need to put more emphasis on the fact that they are chemicals. And I know that we like to call them ingredients to our clients so that they don't get freaked out, but I think that they need to be aware that like, yeah, these are chemicals.
They're pretty serious. So
yeah. I think for my last question to wrap up, especially like with chemicals, did you guys have your chemist or have you had any information of like long-term effects for lash artists when it comes to, I know we talked earlier about like getting the sniffling and the sore throat and like tightness in your chest, but did they have anything of like anything that lash artists can do to protect themselves, or if there's long-term exposure risk or anything to that with adhesive at least?
With adhesive, I would say definitely like you should be wearing a mask when you're lashing, and not just like a cheapo ones that we wore during COVID.
I use an N95, but I switch it out between clients.
Yeah, because it holds those fumes.
And so I throw it in the trash. I do not reuse that at all. it's per client. So, and even with the LED system,
it's still in its liquid form.
I'm still breathing some cyanoacrylate. But I do notice I do not get the sore throat, and I don't get the sniffles, and I don't get the watery eyes because it's such a low content.
Yeah, but definitely I would say just check the percentages. It really shouldn't be over 80%.
No.
I like
80,
85, anything higher than that, you're just going to get more fumes, because in its curing process, it's not going to use all of that cyanoacrylate.
Right.
So if there's too much of a percentage in there, that is just basically, for lack of a better word, burning off and just releasing more fumes. Whereas if it's got a lower content and the chemical makeup of the adhesive itself, like even our traditional adhesives, I want to say they use almost all of the cyanoacrylate. I want to say
by the time it's cured.
By the time it's cured, it's used almost every bit of it, whereas Opal uses the whole thing.
In that 2 seconds.
So if it's got a high cyanoacrylate content, I would just be careful and wear a mask. I'm not saying to not use them, because I mean, if you like that adhesive, that's fine. But definitely just, use air purifiers, air out your space, go walk outside for a minute. Don't sit inside the whole time. Make sure you've got breaks.
And when I was doing the traditional, I had an air purifier.
Constantly. Air purifiers, seriously, take a walk outside in between clients.
Well, and that's why I love the LED system.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to totally contain those, make those all those ingredients inert in a couple seconds, and it's cured, not dried. It's cured. So I love it.
So but even if you do choose to use a traditional adhesive, we do still sell traditional adhesives.
And they're great.
They're awesome. We don't think there's anything wrong with them.
No.
It just depends on what is going to work best for you and your clients and your business and everything.
For sure.
But
educate yourself. Educate yourself. Get the SDSs. Contact the companies.
Wear a mask.
They should be very transparent. We pride ourselves on being very transparent, and we want everybody to be education. So.
Yeah, I definitely could tell. And I love that so much that you guys and one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you guys on the podcast is that even when we met at the Lash conference, I could tell like the passion behind it and the knowledge that came along with that, because sometimes people can be passionate, but they don't have the education and the knowledge to talk about it and to be like, well, this is why I believe in this, you know? So I think that that's really special and it's really cool. And I'm excited to see where your guys' business goes. And I'm excited for you guys that you guys came on here and we've, you know, chatted for a little over an hour. And I feel like I learned so much, which is amazing. And I'm really excited for listeners to listen to this because I do feel, especially when I did the TikTok video, there was a lot of people that were super curious, but I just don't think that the education is out there like that's like quality, like well-sourced education, I guess. So I'm excited for people to listen to this episode and then just get a better idea of what it is instead of all of the fear based stuff that happens. And I think too, because I do believe that like you don't need to use a lot of like primers and bonders and sealants and stuff in order to attain like good lashes and good retention. So even using the light may not be for everybody and they may like just how they do it and it's fine. I actually had one girl comment and she said that she got the light but she lashes back and forth, and so with the light she was like, you're supposed to do like one eye at a time and then do that, and she's like, it just made me slower because it was out of my groove of what I normally do. And I'm like, I can totally see that, right? And that's okay, but I think it's good to be educated and then even be educated to this point. If a client asks questions, you know how to answer them, because the next thing I think I'm going to see is clients are going to be like, oh, I'm allergic to lashes. Do you have this light so I can get lashes back again? And then I think that's going to be a big thing that clients are going to search out because they just see those keywords and the, you know, those headlines that come out. So I think that I'm really excited for people to be able to just like learn more about it in general, the type of light, really what it is. And I don't know if you want to talk really quick about what all comes with your Opal system. And then I know that you did have a discount code for listeners too. So if you want to share that and then kind of where people can find you to follow along too, and then we'll wrap up.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so with our Opal system, you are going to get the lamp itself. You also are going to get a bottle of adhesive. We provide 4 pairs of silicone reusable iPads. Those are totally optional. They just kind of help cut your costs a little bit because you already are cutting your costs down just because the adhesive itself does have a longer shelf life. So you're not buying as much adhesive. You don't need primer. You don't need bonder with it. So it's just another cost cutting benefit that we just add in there for you, just a little freebie. It comes with 2 rolls of black micropore tape, so you can use those for either your blonde clients to contrast their lashes, or you can also use it if you've got a client who's even just sensitive to your overhead light, and you can put it on their lid to kind of block a little bit of it out. Again, that's totally optional. You do not need to use it. We just kind of put that in there as a little freebie. And then it also does come with the blue light glasses like we talked about. Totally optional. It's just if you get eye strain, you know, you can use them. And then it does come with a manual, and in the manual there's a little QR code that'll take you to a video that kind of shows you like where to place the light, how to set it up, how to turn it on, where to place it, how long you need to put the light on, all that stuff. So there's like a little mini tutorial, and we always are open to video calls. They're free. If anybody wants to reach out, do a video call, we can go over whatever questions you have, whether you have the system or not. It's free to everybody. So yeah, and then if you wanted to use the discount code, I can't remember what I told you that it was. Do you remember?
Let's see. So you guys are giving 15% off site-wide on your entire order with code Educated Artistry at checkout. So I will add the code and your guys' website in the description of this episode as well. So if people want to go check you guys out, then they can use that code and save some money. Well, it has been amazing having you guys on, and thank you so much for taking your time and coming on here and telling us all of the knowledge. I'm super excited for this episode to come out, and I just appreciate your guys' time. And I'm so glad that we got to meet at the conference.
Yeah, us too.
Us too. We could talk for hours
I
on
know.
this. Hours.
I bet. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, guys, and we will chat later.
Hey, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.